Why don't we start with a prayer? Maybe that'll help. And why don't we just go with the Serra prayer for vocations? In the name of the Father and Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O God, who wills not the death of a sinner, but rather he be converted and live, grant, we beseech you, through the intercession of the Blessed Mary, ever Virgin, Saint Joseph, her spouse, Saint Nipero Serra, and all the saints, increase of laborers for your church, fellow laborers with Christ, to spend and consume themselves for souls, through the same Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, God, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, I said introductions. It looks like we have a good cross-section of people tonight. I'm Don Semino. For those who don't know me, I am this year the U.S. Council Vice President for Communications. We're going to talk about staff support for communications. The office has a new contract for somebody to help with the communications. There's some new websites, and we're going to soon have a new member database management system. And then when we get to the end, we'll have a few reminders about some upcoming things. Earlier this year, the organizations, Serra International, the council, and the foundation decided that it would probably be better to find somebody who could do that basically on an outsourced basis, because it's very difficult to find somebody with the qualifications you need at a salary that we can afford to pay for a full-time person. So basically what we've got is a relationship with Vianney Vocations. Of course, we've been working with them for several years now. They operate the Serra store website, and those who've been to conventions and rallies have seen the Serra, the Vianney Vocations people there, and Sam Alzheimer, who is the head of that organization, has had a lot of those. And so they made a proposal for us that won't cost any more than what we would pay if we hired a full-time person. But they were signed up to do a public website, which is a serrainternational.org, a website that doesn't require a login. And they proposed to use their expertise in-house to design a new website. And I guess one step I skipped here is, why do we need a new website? And why do we need a new member management system? So I'll give you the 30-second story on that. Everybody's aware we had a member website, Serra International website, and then the portal website. And that started around 2014. And it was a company that originally called themselves Baraka, but they were a part of another organization, another company called TQI. So it was TQI/Baraka. So we've been having contracts with them. They did a custom software development for that portal, which was very expensive, and it was a lengthy process of getting it the way we would like to have it. They had notified Serra last year that the platform in which they built the portal was nearing its end of life, and so they would need to switch to a different platform, which meant a whole new software development effort, and it was going to be very expensive to do that again. So we had been looking at some possible alternatives, and the Serra International Board approved back in I think it was in May, that we would go with an organization that we had been trying out since 2019, and the name of that is Club Express. That's what they do, is they provide websites and membership management systems for membership organizations, including some that have more members than Serra does, but also a lot that have maybe less than 100 members or maybe a few hundred members. But they have lots and lots of customers and have a very good reputation. And as I say, we've been trying out their product for the past few years. So we are going to be going with them, and we're in the process right now. We had to export the data out of the old database and then get it ready to import in the new database. So right now there's no member portal available, and we're hoping to have something up by the end of August so that the people in the office and people in clubs will be able to resume adding new members, dropping members who drop out, and updating member information. So that's what brought all this about, and so they also hosted the Serra International website. So that required us to find another host for the website, and so Beyond Vocations has developed the site. It's still a work in progress, but anybody who has looked at it, and I will show a little bit later for those who haven't seen it, it certainly is a lot more attractive than what we had before, and it will have a lot more information, and will be maintained with current information. Beyond Vocations will be doing that in conjunction with the folks in the office. But they'll have primary responsibility for making sure the website is running and making any design changes and so forth. The member portal will be replaced with Club Express. And as before, the portal was actually a separate website, and it looked nothing like the Serra International website. And as I'll show you in a few minutes, the new website that members will log into will have the same look and feel as the public website. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
This is Denise from Chicago. When will the websites be available, and what are the web addresses? I'm just on the phone. This is my first meeting.
Yes, okay, I'll show that in a few minutes. The Serra International website is available now, and this is the new Serra International website. Can everybody see that? Anybody not seeing it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, and you notice as before, the flags are up at the top for people in other countries, so they can have it translated into their language. There's menus here that have lots of other information. This website is designed to have current information for members, as far as what's new. There's a promotion for the Serra International Convention. Up here is for people who don't know who we are, some information about who we are. And then news items will be on here, and those will be updated regularly. And again, so we have a lot of information on here that would be of interest to somebody who maybe stumbles across the website because they're looking for something about vocations, or maybe someone has told them about Serra and they come to this website. And so there'll be a lot of information on there, about Serra. And right now there's a support Serra button in the upper right hand corner, which takes you to the foundation website. And that's where, if you want to make a donation, you can do that, and you can find out more about what the foundation does. What we had on the old Serra International website was a button for members to log in, and we will have that on here eventually. Okay, this is what the member website looks like right now. And if you notice, you would say, well, I have a hard time telling the difference between this and the other site. And the only real difference is up here, where there's a member login button now on the upper right. And so basically what we ask Club Express to do is, and they host websites for the organizations that are their customers. And so eventually we'd like to have them host everything. So, it would be all one website where there would be a public site, and then when a member logs in, there would be a set of menus and content that members would see, but would have to be logged in. But for now, because Vianney Vocations wanted to use a different platform for developing the website, it's two separate websites. And what we did is we asked the Club Express people to mimic the design that Vianney Vocations came up with. And as you can see, it looks very much the same. About the only place where you can see some differences will be down at the bottom where there's, not some of the stuff that's at the bottom of the other website, but mainly up at the top, there's a button that says member login. And so this will be like the portal website that we had before, where there was a member login button on the Serra International website. And when you clicked on that, it opened up the other website and provided a box for you to log in. And so right now, we haven't uploaded all the data yet that we're going to have on the member website. And so there's really not anything for anybody. Nobody can log in right now except John Liston and myself. And so, but when a member will click on that, and it remembered my information. So let me try this. Okay, this is what you would see if you were on that website and you clicked on the member login. And there you see my username in there, and then my password, which my browser is remembering. And there is a button here that says forgot my username/password. So if that happens, you can click on that and it'll take you through a process of giving you a new password, or if you can't remember your username. Okay, so there'll be a process for doing that. But you can also cancel if you decide I really don't want to log in. But if you do want to log in, you enter your information here and then log in. Okay, so now I'm logged in, and up on the right hand side, I see my name and this little triangle here. If I hover over that, there's a place where I can upload a picture of myself if I want, and that would appear there. And then there's a profile button here. So if I click on that, it takes me to a page that shows my profile. And so any member, when they log in, will have this option. And what we're going to do is, before we make this site live, we're going to send an email out to all club presidents and club treasurers and ask them to provide the name and email address of at least one, preferably two or more people in their club who will be responsible for maintaining the club's membership. Just similar to what we had before. We had people in the clubs who were administrators, and they could go in and administer the roster for their club in the member portal. Okay, well, this is what we're going to be doing here. So in a lot of cases, it may be the club treasurer, or it may be the club secretary, may not necessarily be the club president. A lot of club presidents will probably say, yes, I'd like to be an administrator, because an administrator will have the capability to create emails and send out blast emails to everybody in the club. And so, but in any event, if the club president doesn't want to do that, it can be somebody else in the club. But you can see here on the member profile page, it shows a summary. It says membership summary. It shows my member type is member, and I'm member number 2. John is member number 1. And then the status is active. And Club Express has a lot of customers who want to have members sign up online to join, and also have the billing handled through Club Express. We're going to continue doing the billing the way we have in the past. And so you may see some things in here that have to do with the amount owed or billing and whatnot. And that should be something, members should never see something that says they owe a certain amount of money, because we're not going to be having members pay their dues through Club Express. Although, just as an aside, as we get down the line here, if a club desires that they want their members to pay online their dues directly to their club's bank account, there will be a way that we can do that. And I know that there are some clubs that would like to do that now, because it's very difficult sometimes to find somebody to be a treasurer and handle all that. But for right now, basically, we're going to continue doing things the way we have for everyone, where the office sends out an invoice and a roster, and then, the club writes a check and sends it back to the office. So let's take a look here at basic member information to see what's in there. And this is very similar to the screens that we had in the old portal, where you could go in and update the information for a particular member. And you could also add a new member. And so in this case, we're looking at maybe making a modification. So you can see up here, it says member number 2, salutation. And in this case from Club Express, when they talk salutation, they're talking about these kinds of things, admiral or brother or captain or colonel or doctor or father, and so on and so forth. If it's a salutation for somebody who, that's not on that list, you can type it in there. So you can type doctor. I think that was one of the ones on the list. And then there's a place for a middle initial, and that can only be one character. So it truly is an initial, not a middle name or an initial with a period behind it. And then place for the primary address. And of course, I didn't enter all that in for this admin account, but there's a place here to put down, address 1, which is your street address. Address 2 would be for like an apartment number, the city, the state, and there's a, you can select the state off the drop-down list, enter the zip code. Based on the state that you enter, it'll set the time zone. It can also be a secondary address. We have some members who have, live in one place in the summer and a different place in the winter. And then other information is mobile phone, fax, email address, and so forth. And there's also a place for company information. Some people will, can put in, what company they work for and what kind of work they do and that sort of thing. There's a lot of other information that a member can put in to their profile if they would like to do it. So anyway, I'll cancel out of that for right now. And it warns me that any changes I made won't be saved. They have not everything that we have in our database is in the Club Express database. So they have what they call additional member data.
I mean, it seemed like a lot of people next step, but I didn't want to tell them that.
I'm sorry? Somebody was talking? Did you have a question?
No,
I think-
that was someone who was speaking on their phone, Don. I muted
Oh,
them.
okay. All right. Anyway, the additional member data, we have some data in the database, such as the name of parish. A lot of clubs track what parish a member belongs to. And so there is a place to put that in here. And also native language, something else in the database. For most members, it's English, but there are other languages to choose from here, and we could add more if needed. And then there's a place to check off other languages spoken. So those are 3 things that we have in our current database, and that's how we'll put those in Club Express. And then there's other things down here, histories, transaction history. If a member has made donations for the time being, donations will continue to be made through the eTapestry database, and the foundation people are in charge of that. But Club Express does have a donation module. Joe, you have a question? Or are you just adjusting your camera? Okay. Anyway,
Don, I've got a question. This is Dick Arians. Is this
Yeah.
right now specifically for the US Council?
you're talking about this database?
Yes.
No, this is intended for everybody. Club Express has customers in other countries. And so that was one of the pluses that they had when we were evaluating the alternatives. They're used to dealing with customers in other countries. I think we're probably going to stretch their capabilities on this, but you know, they have lots of adaptations. For example, you know, if members are paying dues directly through Club Express, you know, that can be in the currency of whatever country the people are in. We don't have that issue because you know, members in other countries, you know, send their payment information in to the office in Chicago, you know, via the country or the council. And just like our clubs pay member dues, you know, for all the members in their club, by sending a check to the office. But yes, they do have the capability to handle members in other countries. And one of the things I've given them is a list of all our countries, all the districts, and all of the clubs that were in the old portal database. And so they're in the process of uploading that. And then once that's done, then we will have them upload the member data. And then the members will be tied to a particular club. And within Club Express, it's easy to, if we need to rename a district, renumber a district, or move a club from one district to another, or move a member from one club to another, it's very easy to do that in Club Express.
And this is Mike Sheehan from Rochester, Sarah. I just have a question. It can wait if there's not an easy answer. There were, in the old database, there were different member types, associate, non-billable. Those are still going to be there?
Yes, we're going to use the Club Express terminology. They have member types and then various categories of active and so forth. And we're going to try to do away with the non-billable, because non-billable meant different things to different people. But what we're doing for the member types, one thing that Club Express has is what they call primary members and secondary members. And so if it's just a member with no spouse who's a member, they refer to that as a solo member. But if you have a spouse who is a member, then you associate the spouse with the primary member, and so the spouse will be a secondary member. Both of them will be able to log in. And the nice thing is that you know, Club Express, we have no long-term contract with Club Express. It's month to month. And you know, they bill us every month based on the number of active members that we have, and they charge half for secondary members of what they charge us for the primary members. It's like 12 cents per member for a primary member, and then 6 cents for a secondary member. So the spouses would be secondary members. Then we'll also have we have been calling it under 35, but I asked for clarification if it really was under 35 or if it was 35 and under. And it turns out that member type is for members up through age 35. Once they turn 36, then presumably they would become a regular member. But we will have that as a member type. We'll also have chaplain as a member type, other religious, and so forth. So we're working that right now to make sure that everybody's in sync as far as what the member types will be, and then how that will be reported in reports and rosters and the invoices that the office sends to the clubs. But it'll work pretty much the same as it does now. If you have a member who has been a member, say, and decides that for some reason they can't continue, then they go into a category called dropped, and they stay in the database, but they can no longer log in. And Club Express recommends doing that because you know, perhaps you may want to keep in touch with that person, and maybe at some point in time they will decide to rejoin. And so they have that. They also have a few other categories that won't be applicable to us. One would be frozen, and that would be if somebody's membership has expired and they haven't paid their dues, they would go into that category, but we're not going to be handling dues that way, so we won't be using that one. But so they have basically active and inactive members can be in the database, just like they were in the old database. There's also another thing that Club Express has. We have a lot of people who were in the database who were not members. For example, my wife was never a member up until earlier this year, but we went to conventions and rallies together and made donations, and so my wife was in the database and had a an account and everything else, but it didn't show up in the portal. Non-members didn't show up in the portal, but anyway, they were mixed into the database, the eTapestry database. So, but Club Express has a separate non-member database. So any people who are associated with the club or a club wants to communicate with, maybe the bishop, the vocation director, and other folks like that, they can put into the non-member database, and you can send emails. You'll be able to send emails not only to members but to non-members as well. And but it's a lot cleaner in Club Express, a distinction between a member and a non-member. So does that answer the question?
I think it does. I was a little bit concerned because we have a category of membership in our club. I think maybe other clubs do, where we have long-term members who've been active, and now maybe because they're infirmed in
Mhm.
nursing homes or whatever, they're going to go inactive, and we aren't going to bill them, so we don't treat them as billable members.
Right,
But we want to communicate with them. We call them our prayer partners. They join our prayer initiatives, but they're not active members.
right.
And we want to
Well,
communicate. We want to communicate with them.
Right. That was something that, yeah, I'm going to be talking with John about this week, and what's the best way to handle all that. But we can create as many different member types as we need to, and for various reasons. And of course, really what it all comes down to is when the office sends the invoice to the club, how do they treat those when they put those on the invoice? And so it may, maybe there'll be a few things that come up, a few issues that come up once we get started, but it'll be relatively easy to resolve that. And we'll get a workflow down that accommodates, the needs of the individual clubs.
John, this is Homer Radford in Kansas City. Hope you're doing well down there.
Yeah, we are. Good to see you, Homer.
Good to be vertical. You said 12 cents and 6 cents for a member, primary, and spouse. Is that per month or per year?
I have to go back and look. I think it's per month.
That's like $1,000-something per month.
Well, the only thing I can tell you right now is it's cheaper than what we were paying before.
Yeah.
Because we've been paying for the
That's fine.
database.
I just thought it was, an odd way to do it, but everything changes. No problem.
Yeah, the cost will be less, and
There's just so many of the service you talked about that, for instance, our club won't use. We have a member that took care of our portal for 3 years, and she was the only one that knew how to understand and do it. And 75% of our members are over 70. They're not going to go on the internet and do it. So I think it's a great database for the next generation. But
right. Well, those are the people we're trying to attract as new members.
that's right. Good luck. Hope you'll have better luck than we do.
Yeah, well, I know what you're saying. We had our club board
fine.
meeting this afternoon, and we were discussing the same kind
Gotta
of
keep up
problem.
with the times.
But yes, Homer raises a very good point. And as he said, a lot of clubs, I mean, there are probably a lot of clubs who won't have anybody who wants to do it. And one of the things that we had asked about doing with the company we were dealing with before was giving certain district governors the ability to manage the membership for one or more clubs in their district if the clubs didn't have somebody who wanted to do it. And that was not something that was going to be easy to do. But in Club Express, it is very easy. We can assign administrators at any level. And so, you know, assign administrators at a club level. If there's nobody in a club who wants to be an administrator, then somebody outside of the club can do it. If, you know, if the club, you know, wants that to happen.
Yeah.
It could be
Well,
the district governor, or it could be somebody in a different club.
During the transition, this lady that did it for up until, well, February, so this year, or actually, I guess more recently. But she moved to Branson, and so we had to replace and all, had to go through the treasurer and stuff. But my one concern was that during that transition time, I think it was either Barbara or one of the other ladies, because you know, on the staff, we just sent her a Word document, and they took care of us, and I really appreciated that for our transition time. And will
Mhm.
they be able to go into this database and make changes?
Yeah, the folks in the office will be top level administrators. They'll be able to do anything
Okay, thank you.
on the site, and they'll be able to do just what they've been doing in the past. If a club you know, says, hey, we don't have anybody who can do this, here are the changes in our membership, they can send that to the office, and the
Yeah,
folks in
thank
the
you.
office will do it.
That takes care of my questions. Have a good year.
Yeah, the other good thing here also, speaking about folks in the office and the work that they do, you know, those folks have a lot of things, you know, a lot of balls in the air. We don't have a very large staff for an organization our size. And Club Express has toll-free support. In fact, their office is located in a suburb of Chicago, so not far from our office. But on weekdays, from whatever normal working hours are, I forget exactly what their hours are, but they have people manning the phones if somebody has a problem, if they're having trouble logging in, or they've logged in and they're trying to figure out how to do something and they can't quite figure it out. You know, they can call that number. They also provide support by email. It may be something that's easier to put in an email and send it to them saying, hey, I'm having this problem. And also certainly outside of working hours, if somebody has a problem, then they can submit something by email to get a response. So I think that'll be a big help, because I know the folks in the office spent, you know, in the past, I've spent quite a bit of time on the phone with people in the clubs who, you know, had things, you know, they like you said, Homer, where they wanted to, they needed to update their membership, but they didn't have anybody in the club who could do it. So anyway, we're hoping that that'll be another benefit here, is that as people get used to using this, that it'll reduce the number of questions that people will call the office and ask about. And actually, you know, the best place to call will be the Club Express, because they'll be able to instantly figure out what the problem is, that the person's having, and then tell them how to do what they need to do. So there's that. The other thing we're going to have, I mentioned before, we're going to be sending an email out to the clubs asking them for people who can administer the website or the database. And they what was I going to say? Anyway, yeah, it was talking about the support, but I forgot where I was going with that. But they what I wanted to say is we're going to have some training. Okay, part of what we paid for as part of the startup cost with Club Express is some custom tailored training. Although they have lots of tutorial videos on YouTube. They're all on YouTube. There's a support page they have that lists all the different kinds of tutorials. They also have various manuals available for people who are doing certain functions. And so some of the other things that we'll be able to do, Club Express, clubs will be able to send out emails to the members. regularly, just would be something, you could do something similar to the always forward, never back, for example. Maybe, I know some clubs have stopped printing newsletters or even having PDF newsletters, but they've started just putting information on a website. And so that's something else. With Club Express, we can have as many web pages as we want. There's no limit on the number of web pages. And so individual clubs and districts will be able to have their own web pages on the Club Express website as sub-sites under the Serra International website. So there's lots of things like that. Committees, for example, every club has a board. In Club Express, boards are handled as committees. Okay, they have two types of committees. One would be something similar to what we call boards, where there are specific position titles associated with positions on the board, and then terms of office. And then you pick the members who fill those roles and put in their term of office. There are also committees that can be like, for example, the program committee or the communications committee, where anybody can join. People can join at will, or they can leave at will. And then the person who's in charge of the committee can send emails to all the people on the committee. And there's other ways they can communicate as well. But anyway, those are some of the kinds of things that we'll be able to use when we get in.
Don, this is what an administrator would see.
Yeah, this is what a club administrator would see if they log in. What the way this worked, let me go back. Okay, so there are different tabs up here, different pages basically. One is called people, one is called website. This is where if a club has some web pages, then somebody in the club can update those pages, or if you can find somebody else, and this will be something, if all the clubs are using the same platform for their website, then you can find somebody who might be willing to help several clubs maintain their website. There's also money, organization, communications, which is for emailing, and we can talk about that in a minute. But going back to the people, so I'm logged in right now as administrator for my club, so I can't see members from any other club or any other district. There is a club finder where I can search for people and find people. It's similar to a function that we had in the old portal. I think it was called Explore, where you could say, hey, I know, there's somebody in a club in another district or another region or something. But for right now, we're talking about managing the data. And so what I'm seeing is just the data for the people in my club. So the first thing you do is you come up to this screen and it says search for people. And so you can say, and this is what I did before, I said, I want to see all active or expired. And this is a drop-down list where you can choose, I just want active, or I want people who are dropped. Okay, let's take a look at that and search. Okay, here are some people who were in my club at one time, but they're no longer in the club. Okay, but they're in the database. Okay, and so those people's records are in there. Okay, but for right now, I want to look at the active people. And so there it is. It says member status active, last name. If I typed a name in there, then it would try to find a person with a particular last name. But, and it says sort by last name, first name, or you could have it sort by first name, last name, company name, last name, or member number, last name. Okay, but for right now, we're going to sort by last name, first name, and I want all active members. I'll click on search, and those are all the active members of my club. And so I can go down here and find myself, for example. And if I click on that, I clicked on right below my name down here where it says Plano, Texas. And it pops up something that says it's my name, my street address, my email address, my mobile number, home number, and mobile number. And if I click on the email address, what just happened is it opened up, you can't see it, but it opened up my email application with that in the to field. And so if I wanted to send an email to that particular person, I could do it by just, and I would send the email to them through whatever email application I use, just by clicking on their email address here in this database. Okay, there is a separate function if I want to send an email to members of my club, all the members, all the active members, or just particular members. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But over here on the right-hand side of this are various symbols, tokens that you click right here, it shows you what they mean. A pencil is for profile. There's something there that says mailing list categories. There's a bio. You can update a person's bio. There's notes, charges and credits, renew, and so forth. But the main thing we're going to be interested in is clicking on the pencil here, which is as I want to update this particular member's record. So let me go back to mine again, and I'll click on that, and this opens it up. Here I had uploaded my picture, so that goes on there, and there's the member number, the join date, expiration date. What we're going to do, as I say, Club Express is set up for organizations, for clubs that have, say, a 1-year membership, and so maybe all members renew on a particular date, or maybe each one is for a year from the date they join, and so that's what the expiration dates are for. So what we're doing with the Club Express is we're setting the expiration date for everybody to 20 years from now. Okay, and so that means they won't expire until who knows what we'll be using in 20 years to manage the membership. Okay, but anyway, it's far enough out in the future that it won't expire during any time frame that we're concerned about today. And then there's the email address. The basic member information is in here. My member number. Now, one thing that when we add a new member, I'll get to that in a minute, there is a place to put in a member number. Okay, we hadn't been using the member numbers in the portal. It wasn't a field in the portal. And so we have a lot of members who don't have a member number, and we're going to go ahead and assign them member numbers and then start tracking member numbers again. But when we add a new member, we're going to set a starting number, and then every new member who's added after that, the member number will increment by 1. And so that's how it was way back when Peter was doing it in Foxborough. Again, there's a salutation field, first name, middle initial, last name. So all the fields that we're used to seeing in the old portal are on here. One that was in the old portal, but was kind of hidden, you had to click on something to find it, is one called gender, male and female. And so we're going to have that in here, and that's going to be our mandatory entry whenever we add a new member, because we have a lot of members in the current database who don't have a gender listed. And it may be helpful sometimes to know, whether somebody's a male or a female. It's not always obvious from looking at the name. And so we'll have that. The birthday, we're going to make that a mandatory field. I know in the current database, at one point in time, it was, I think, a mandatory field in one of the previous versions of the database. And so some people who didn't want to share what their actual birth date was would put the month and date and a fictitious year, like 1999 or something. And so, people could still do that. But one thing that we'll tell people to maybe alleviate any of their fears about putting their birth date in here is that the birth date will be in here. Administrators will be able to see it. We'll be able to, maybe compile some demographic information based on people at different ages, how many people in different age groups we have in the clubs and so forth. But when you see a member directory or anything else like that lists birth dates, it will list only the month and the day. It will not list the year. And so we'll encourage everybody to have their actual birth date in there if it's not in there already.
Don,
So
can I
that's
ask
my-
another question?
Yeah.
In the old portal, we had a lot of there were a lot of lines for phone numbers, and it
Yeah.
led to all kinds of confusion, and we didn't have a good list of what the real phone number was for a person.
Right.
How many phone numbers are we collecting here?
There's two phone numbers, in general. There's a home phone and
Mobile phone.
and yeah, well, there's a phone for the secondary address as well, okay?
Oh, yeah.
If somebody has a secondary address. But there's a home phone and there's a mobile, under other info down here is mobile phone. There's also a place to put a fax number if anybody still has a fax machine. Email address, and if, some people may have their own website, they can put that in here. And then here is work information. There's also a place there to put a work number.
Right, but none of that's mandatory in the work, right?
No, and we control, I guess there are a few things that are mandatory for everybody, but in a lot of cases, we can decide whether something is mandatory or not.
Great.
And so if we make something mandatory and we decide, well, we don't want to have it mandatory, or if we don't make it mandatory and we decide we do, we can do that.
Don, I come up with another number. This is Homer again.
Yes.
We're going to have, and we are blessed to have tomorrow, it's a district meeting of all of our 4 clubs now, with the bishop and the vocation director and luncheon and mass and all that. But we're also having an induction, and tomorrow we will have 3 new members. And that brought up an idea as to, we send in the application with money to SI, but we're going to be responsible for adding their names to this database eventually, or contacting somebody in Chicago.
Well, it's basically all I can say right now is that it will work the same way it has been working. I mean, there are some clubs where somebody has been doing it. Somebody from the club has been doing it, and some clubs, send the information into the office for them to do. And so that won't change because we're changing to Club Express.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Obviously, the more clubs who can do it themselves, and that's, frees up
Sure.
the office staff
Well,
time to do
Eventually,
other things.
when it goes live, we'll try.
Yeah. Well,
You're
that's,
true.
right now what we've done is we've downloaded the data that was in the portal.
Yeah.
And we're going through it and cleaning it up. There are certain things and there are certain duplicates, and there are people in the database who were put in there. They're non-members and those kinds of things. And so we're going through and cleaning all that up. Two of the things that we're trying to do is if a member had a member number in the eTapestry database, which that wasn't shown in the portal, then we're going to try to use that number. And in fact, Homer, you were an example of an odd case I ran into where
I'm as odd as they get.
you had been in Peter's database because of your affiliation with the Boy Scouts, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And
National Catholic Committee on Scouting.
Yeah, but you had a member number, but then you wound up in the database because of that affiliation with a different member number. And that different member number is the one that's in the eTapestry database.
Oh, well.
And so we'll try to go back and put back your original real member number.
Very good. Thank you.
So anyway, but so those are some of the kinds of things that we're having to try to clean up, and we do have
create a problem for you.
Yeah, most of the people who are in the database, I'd say probably 90% of the people who are in the database are people in the US, but there are people, a substantial number of people from Brazil and Mexico and Italy, and then some from Canada, okay, US and Canada, I should have said. And then, we have Brazil, Mexico, and Italy, and then a smattering of members, from other countries. And I think mostly the people from those countries who were in the old database are people who either were on a board or attended a convention or a rally or something. And so they're in there. So we'll get them in. But for right now, the bulk of the people in the database are people in the US and Canada. But this will give us an opportunity once we get this up and running. I know, the boards have been the international board has been talking about bringing in all the members from the other countries, and probably start slow with 1 or 2 countries, and then keep adding until we get everybody in there.
Don, can I ask a quick question? This is Wendy
Sure.
Collins from Fort Worth Serra Club. Is there an additional cost? You covered it briefly, but I just wanted to clarify for us to put all this information in and to,
There's no, are you asking if there's a cost for the club to put the information in?
well, for us to be able to access this and our club members to access it?
No, no. I
Oh,
mean, that's
okay.
part of the fee that we paid to Club Express.
For the Sarah dues. Okay,
Right,
you.
right.
Can I just clarify for Wendy? This is Mike Downey. I'm the U.S. Council President.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike.
All these costs are paid by the U.S. Council as part of the U.S. Council dues.
Okay,
No club has any. And in fact, there's going to be some benefits here, as Don already mentioned. One is that clubs will have the option to host their own websites at no cost. If they want to use Club Express, you don't have to change for whatever you're using. So I think there's going to be, not only is there no cost to the clubs, I think it's going to be easier and simpler. And I think there's going to be some benefits in terms of the website.
yeah, and I love the data management, that the ability to have data management on this. And I was just double checking to make sure that we were able to use it. Thank you guys for all the work you do. That's it. You answered my question.
Okay. Yeah. One other thing that each club will be able to keep their own calendar, and the calendar function. Let me open that. Okay, you can see here, it looks like a calendar. Okay, so what I'm looking at right now would be a calendar just for my club. Okay, so I could put in here, our monthly meetings, certain other events that we have and so forth. I put that in here, and then anybody in the club would be able to see that. And there are ways you can create a web page for your club that has something on it that shows upcoming events and when they are. And so that's something else. And the other thing this does is, at the top level, for example, for Serra International, they can put the convention on here, and then when an event is on the calendar, then they can actually set up the event in here for people to be able to register, keep track of people who've registered, the people who want certain kinds of meals, people who want to go on particular tours before or after the convention, and all those kinds of things. And so, and the districts and regions will be able to do the same thing, if they have a district convention. So it all ties together. It's all integrated now. It's not just a dead calendar here. This calendar ties into other functionality that you can use to set up a particular event and have people register for it.
That's great. So they can RSVP from our calendar that's on this.
Well, yeah, from the event. Basically, what you do is you put an event on the calendar, and then you can send an email to everybody with a link for them to register.
That's great.
And then when the people register, you can get a report of who's registered and if they're bringing a guest and all that sort of thing. Have they paid and so on and so forth. So all that's available.
Can I add real quick?
Okay.
The thing about Club Express is we have a lot of features that are available to clubs that have not been available before.
Right.
But nobody is required to use them. No club is required to. It's up to you to make a choice there. So, it's like a nice add-on, but we anticipate over time, because of the simplicity and the ease of use, that we're going to see more and more clubs gravitate to use the full functions of Club Express. Yeah,
initially, all we're going to do is, up until early July, clubs were able to add new members and maintain their member information themselves via the portal, and the people in the office could also. And so right now they can't because we're in the transition phase. But once we go back online, that's the first thing we'll have back up, so that people will be able to add in any new members who've come in since early July, and then make any changes that have occurred since early July. So we're basically going to take that first step to get back to where we were before. But as time goes by and we start implementing new things, that because we have capabilities now in Club Express, and clubs become aware of features that are available. I know, for example, that there are clubs who, we've heard it at the rally every year. The clubs start to talk about how they contact their members to tell them about the meetings and various other things. And some clubs are using Flopnote, either because they have their own account, or they may be writing on a parish account. And so they can send messages to their members via flop note. Well, to be able to do the same thing here, like I say, once you've got the member data in there, then you can go over to communications, and there's a function, a website module called emailing. There's also text messaging, and that's something that is becoming more common. There is an extra charge for that because when you send text messages, it costs a few cents to send a text message. So there is some cost associated with that, but we have to decide, is it worth paying that cost and having members get the information and respond to it more quickly than sending them an email? But that'll be something down the road. But anyway, right away, we'll start with emailing. So here's emailing administration. And it's the same kind of thing as with the members. There's a search here where, I've used it for sending emails out to members in my club in the past. So if I don't enter anything in the search box, it'll show everything that's in here. And there's a whole bunch of emails I've sent out to members in my club. And most of these are just the newsletters. Okay, I would send out an email every month with the newsletter. So I would start with, here's one I created this morning. It's a draft. I just copied the one from the previous month, and then I open it up, and here's the text of it. And you can make this really fancy so it looks like some of the things that come out in the always forward, never back. It's got almost all the capabilities of constant contact. So right here, I start out by personalizing it by putting in the first name of the person who's receiving the message. And then here's my message. It tells them where our next meeting is and what's in the newsletter I'm sending them and so forth. And then down at the bottom, I've got a button here that they can click on to get the newsletter. And the first time I did that, I got some pushback from people in the club, because what this is a link for people to download. It's not actually attached to the message. And they said, I want it as a PDF file attached to the message. And I said, oh, okay. So I had a hunch, and I looked around. And if you notice, when you get the always forward, never back, which is sent via constant contact, another bulk email product, it does not have files as attachments. And the reason for that is that it's too easy for somebody to send you an email and attach a file that has some malware in it. And so what all the bulk emailing companies have done is they basically have made it mandatory that you upload the file to their servers. They check it for malware, and then you can put a button in here to download it from the website. So it's really a security feature. And so when I include this and I send the email out to the people click on that, and it opens up a window and downloads the newsletter file onto their computer. Okay, so there's no bulk email programs these days, no reputable bulk email programs that allow you to actually send the file as an attachment to an email. So, but anyway, this is how you do that. Once you've got you've got the text set up, there's some basic information up here. You can assign a category. I assigned it as club newsletters, and the from address is my address and my from name. And so it can be, any member who's an administrator in your club can put their own name in there. Send type can be immediate, or you can say, I want to send this to all the members of my club on Monday at 7 a.m. Okay, or some other date during the week. So you can send messages out immediately, or you can schedule them to be sent out. Okay, the next part here is the distribution list. Okay, so I set up the distribution list, and this is going to active solo and primary members of subgroup North Central Dallas, which is my club. And so that's how that's set up. Or I could change it to something else if I had a different kind of email I wanted to send out. If I had a particular group defined in the as a mailing distribution list, I could say I want to send it to that list, which may be just the board members of the club. so I could send an email to the board members. And what this is showing here is it looks at all the email addresses and says, okay, if I send it to that group, there'll be 42 emails that'll be sent. I didn't find any invalid email addresses in there, and not functional. I'm not sure what that is. But members refusing. This is something else. All bulk emailing companies these days, are required to have something in the message, usually at the bottom, but something they could be at the top, allowing people to opt out. Okay, because a lot of people get a lot of emails that are sent through services like this, and they don't want to receive them, so they can opt out. And hopefully none of your members will want to opt out of emails that you send, but if they do inadvertently opt out, then there is a way to get them back on the list. So, but anyway, so that's how it's set up. And as I say, I know a lot of clubs talk when we have the rallies and we have the workshop for communications. They talk about what they're doing to communicate with their members, phone lists and calling lists and flock note and email and all that sort of thing. And that's something I'll talk about next month. There is a new book out, and we'll get back and see if anybody has any other questions. We're an hour and a half into this now. Appreciate everybody staying, and I'll be happy to answer any other questions you have. But there's a brand new book out. I think a lot of people are familiar with Bishop Barron and his Word on Fire, and they publish a lot of books. And there is a new book that they published recently, and I don't know if you can see it on there. It's called Why They Follow. Okay, and it's by Matthew Warner, who is the founder of Flocknote. Okay, and in fact, Flocknote was one of the companies that we looked at as far as what we were going to do, other than the old portal and the system that we had. They're doing a lot of good things. They started out as just a way for parishes to send emails to people, but they're branching out into other areas, and so they're making a lot of progress. They weren't quite where we needed them to be in order to take the place of the old portal or Club Express. But anyway, he's got a lot of good tips in there about communicating with people and mistakes that parishes make and so forth. And so that'll be a good book. If there's anybody still watching here, just go ahead. You just go out and look. The title of the book is Why They Follow. And it's Matthew Warner, and it's published by Word on Fire. So that should give you enough information to find it. It's not a very long book. You could probably sit down and read the whole thing in about 3 or 4 hours, or maybe an hour a day for 4 days. But anyway, it's got a lot of background on why they have found certain things more effective than other things, and then so it's something good that I think will be a good topic at a future communications committee meeting to talk about some of those things. There's certain tips in there are obvious. You keep your message short, put the most important information at the beginning of the message, and then follow up with the details back in journalistic style. When you write a news article, you want to put the who, what, when, why, where right up front, and then fill in the details later. So because if people only read the first paragraph or two, then they've got the essential information. So there's lots of good tips in there about that kind of thing. So does anybody else have any questions on what we're looking at here as far as Club Express? Hearing none. I can't see how many, I've got so many things on my screen here. I can't see. Oh, I guess it looks like we have 36 people on the line. So it's up here at the top. If nobody else has anything, I thank everybody for their attention. And as I said, we'll be hearing more about this as we go through the next month or two. And you're the first people outside of the committee that's been working on this who had a chance to take a look at it. And from the questions you've asked tonight and some of the comments I've heard, it sounds like I think everybody is going to really like it once we get into it and we see what it's all about. As I say, as far as managing the membership, I don't think it's going to be a drastic change from what we had before. You know, if somebody could do it with the old portal, it'll be easy to do it with the new portal. The main difference is there will be help available if somebody can't figure out how to do something. And I've used it before. Because, you know, if it's been a few months, you know, like my club treasurer, you know, he usually goes in every 6 months, you know, right before the invoices are going to be sent out, and updates the membership data. So if you only use it every 6 months, you know, you forget. Okay, I see. I know I want to change this, but where do I change it? That kind of thing. And so if they can't figure it out, you know, there's hope available by calling the
Don.
number or sending an email.
Don, Mike Downey again. I just want to say to everybody, thank you, Don. I don't think you folks have any idea how much time and effort Don put into studying all the alternatives. We looked at Flocknote, we looked at Baraka TQI, and we looked at this, and I'm sure there were some others we looked at. Don was instrumental, I think, in bringing us to a good conclusion on that. And he is the point volunteer person on making the conversion happen, which has taken a lot of time and a lot of detailed effort. And I think if you sat through this thing tonight, you know, he knows what he's talking about. We are very lucky to have him. So thank you, Don.
Well, Mike, I appreciate the good words. There were a lot of people involved in it, obviously. I wasn't the only one. So you know, we first found out about Flocknote. For many years, I've worked with computers for a long time. And so I subscribed to a magazine called PC Magazine. And they don't have a printed magazine anymore, but they're still online and they still review products. And first became aware of Club Express because they were editor's choice. Well, they evaluated, I think, about 8 or 10 different membership management products. And by far and away, Club Express had more complete functionality than any of the others, and at a reasonable price. They have great support. If you go to the website, it's clubexpress.com, all one word, clubexpress.com. And if you go to that website, there's in fact, I can open it up here. This is why I'm having a problem, because my Zoom bar is up at the top. But anyway, if I open it up on my browser here, type correctly, clubexpress.com. Okay, there's their website. Click on cool stuff. Okay, they've got examples, they've got stories, they've got documents. You can download manuals and so forth. Video tutorials. They have recent ones. In fact, they're having one Wednesday to talk about some new features that they have. But here's for the control panel and people, for example, managing people. There's one. And you watch these on YouTube. So if you watch any of them, you will say, I think that, gee, these are the most professional tutorial videos I've ever seen for a software product. You know, they have people who do those who speak distinctly. So even people like me who wears hearing aids and has a hard time hearing, you know, what a lot of people are saying, you know, very easy to understand and follow. And they usually have a webinar at least once a month on some topic or another. Sometimes it's new features, or maybe an old feature has had some improvements made to it. And they walk through all the features, and they have somebody watching for any questions that people ask. And at the end of it, they answer the questions. And if they don't know, they say, yeah, that's a good one. We'll send that to our developers to put on the list of something to add or a change to make in the system. And so they've been doing that for, I think, about 19 or 20 years now. They're up to version 68 on their software. They just released version 68. And whenever they update things sufficiently, they create new videos and they update the manuals whenever they update the software. So a very good company to work with.
Don, I know those are really good quality, but they're probably not as good as my training videos, are they?
Or what?
They're probably not as good as my training videos.
He said,
no, they don't match Mike.
Mike said humbly.
No, I do have to say, I you know, You know, Mike patted me on the back, so I'll return the favor here, but, you know, he's done a lot of work even before he was a council president as far as, making sure we had good materials to train the club officers and so forth, much better than we had before, where we had this dense district governor manual that, you know, everybody would pick it up for an hour at the district governor training and then never look at it again. But anyway, yeah, and so there's lots of things, as I say, we will get some training from them, and we just have to determine what kind of training we want them to do. And they will do some training customized, you know, for us. It won't be the, you know, the videos that they have that may talk about things that we don't have, or that we're not using, that aren't applicable for our organization. They have things for bicycle clubs, I think condo associations, and, you know, various other kinds of things. And of course, all those different types of organizations have needs for different kinds of things.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, I thank everybody for staying with us all this time tonight. And, if there aren't any more questions, why don't we go ahead and close it as we do at our normal club meetings with the prayer for the perseverance of vocations. In the name of the Father and Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. O God, you have constituted your only begotten Son, supreme and eternal priest, for the glory of your majesty and the salvation of mankind. Grant that those whom he has chosen ministers and dispensers of his mysteries may be found faithful in fulfilling the ministry they have received.
Amen.
Father and Son, the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Nice work.
Great job, Don.
Yeah, nice work.
Thanks a lot, Don.
All right. Thank
Michael,
you, everybody.
Michael, periodically in your videos, you mention the seminarian display that we've used in Kansas City for a long time.
I think I recognize that.
I was going to say, that's what I put behind me tonight. We have 19 seminarians in the Diocese of Kansas City, St. Joseph this year.
Good job.
We'll be taking that around to about 16 parishes in the next 10 months.
Yeah, there are a lot of dioceses that are really working hard on getting the seminarians.
Yeah.
And good.
See, Mike, you do have good training videos, but I haven't seen anything quite as good as Homer's herding cats video. So it's just like there's still that apex that we're still trying to get to.
There you go.
Nobody's perfect.
That's good. All right. God bless you guys. Good to see you all. Take care.